Hello students, today we will going to study about paper 5 principle of criticism. We will study about unit 1 Aristotle. Aristotle was a Greek philosopher. He was one of the most important philosophers in the history of Western civilization. It is said that Aristotle wrote many books, but only a small number survive. Aristotle was boyhood tutor of Alexander the Great, who later sent his plants and animals from the part of his new empire. About the Aristotle life, Aristotle's father Nicomaus was a soldier of King Amyas of Macedon. From his 18 to his 37 year, Aristotle lived in Athens as a mathematician and a student of Plato. At about the age of 18, he went to Athens to continue his education of Plato Academy. Aristotle remained at the academy for nearly 20 years, not leaving until after Plato's death in 1347 BC. He then traveled with Xenocrates to Asia Minor. While in Asia, Aristotle traveled with the Theopratus to the island of Lesbos, where they researched the botany and the geology of the island. Soon after Hermias' death, Aristotle was invited by Philip II to become the tutor of his son Alexander the Great in 1343 BC. Alexander was appointed at the head of the Royal Academy of Macedon. During the time, he gave lessons not only to the Alexander but also to the two of other kings, Ptolemy and Cassander. Aristotle encouraged Alexander towards Eastern conquest, and his attitude towards Persia and ethnocentric. In one famous example, he advised Alexander to be the leader to the Greeks and the despot to the barbarians, to look after the farmer as the friends and relatives, and to deal with the latter as the beast or plants. Aristotle's combined work constitutes a virtual encyclopedia of Greek knowledge. It has been suggested that Aristotle was probably the last person to know everything there was to be unknown in his time. Aristotle fled the city, however, he died in Euboea of natural causes that the same year 322 BC. Philosophy. The three greatest ancient Greek philosophers were Aristotle, Plato, Socrates. Socrates taught Plato, then Plato taught Aristotle. These three thinkers turned early Greek philosophy into the beginning of Western philosophy as it is today. Aristotle taught Alexander the Great, who later conquered the entire Middle East. Aristotle taught differently. He thought that knowledge from the scenes were more important. These thoughts become some of the roots of scientific method. After the hundred of years, most of the things of Aristotle wrote that we still have today are the notes from the speaking and teaching. Some of the most important writings are physics, metaphysics, ethics, politics, de anima, on the soul, and poetics. His logics. Aristotle created a form of logic. His logic is sensational logic because it uses sentence and the syllogism. Aristotle's logic influenced the history of Western thought. It was Aristotle's logic which was copied and used in Arabic and Latin medieval tradition. It was dominant of the 2,500 years until the late 19th century. Then modern logic was started by Gottlob Frege, Charles Sanders, and others. Influence of Aristotle's work. Aristotle is still one of the most influential people who ever lived. He contributed to the almost kind of knowledge in his day, and he started many new fields. It is doubtful whether any human has ever known as much as he did. Aristotle was a founder of formal logic, pioneered at the study of geology, and helped to develop scientific method. The immediate influence of Aristotle's work was felt at the Lyceum grew into the peripatetic school of philosopher. Aristotle influence Alexander the Great is seen in the later, beginning with him on his expedition. Biologists and researchers. Aristotle biology. Aristotle biology is the theory of biology and grounded in the systematic observation and collection of data, mainly geological, employed in Aristotle books on the science. Many of his observations were made during his stay on the island of Lesbos, including especially his description of marine biology of the Pyre lagoon, now the Gulf of the Colony. His theory is based on the concept of form, which derives from but may marked unlike Plato's theory of forms. Aristotle writing on biology, the first of in the history of science, was scattered across several books, forming about a quarter of his writing that has survived. The main biological texts were the history of animals, generations of animals, movement of animals, procession of element, parts of element on the soil, as well as the lost drawing of the anatomic tomies which accompanied the history. Criticism of his error and second-hand report continued for centuries. He found better acceptance among geology, and some of the long-derived observations in marine biology has found in the modern times to be true. Aristotle background. Aristotle studied Plato Academy in Athens, remaining there and for 20 years. Aristotle remained highly influential for some of the 2000 years. He returned to the Athens and found his own school, the Lyceum, where he taught for the last dozen years of the life. His writing on the geology forms about a quarter of his surviving work. Aristotle's pupil Theophrastus later wrote a similar book on the botany, Inquiry into Plants. Aristotelian forms. Aristotle uses some Greek word to mean first all the set of the visible features that uniquely characterize a kind of animal. Aristotle used the word genus to mean a kind. For example, the kind of animal called a bird has feather, a beak, wing, a small shelled eggs, and warm bloods. Aristotle further noted that are many birds formed within the bird kind: cranes, eagles, crows, bustards, sparrow, and so on. Just as there was many forms of fishes within the fish kind, he sometimes called these automa allied indivisible forms. Human is one of those indivisible forms. Socrates and the rest of us all different individually, but we all have human forms. Finally, Aristotle observed that the child does not take just any form. A child does not take any form, but it is given by the parent seeds with combine. These seeds that contain form, or in modern term information. Aristotle makes clear that he sometimes intended the third sense by giving the analogy of a wood carving. It takes a form from the wood, the tools, carving techniques used to make it, and the design laid on out for it. Aristotle further emphasizes the information nature of the form by arguing that a body is compounded of the elements like earth and fire, just as a word is compound of the latter in a specific order. Metabolism. Aristotle's account of metabolism sought to explain how food was processed by the body to provide both heat and the material for the body constructions and the maintenance. The metabolism system of the life-bearing tetrapods described in the parts of animal can be modeled as an open system, a branching of tree, or flows of material through the body. All at each stage of metabolism, residual materials are exerted as feces, urine, and bile. The system the system work as follow. Heat is constantly lost from the body. Food products research the heat hurt and are processed into a new blood, releasing fire during the metabolism, which raises the blood temperature too high. That raises the heart temperature, causing lung volume to increase, in turn, raising the airblow's mouth. The cool air brought in through the mouth reduces the heart temperature, so the lungs volume accordingly decreases, restoring the temperature to normal. His methods. Aristotle has been called unscientific by philosophers from Francis onwards at least two reasons: his scientific style and his use of explanation. His explanations are in turn made sarcastic by his complicated system of causes. However, these charges need to be considered in the light of what you know is his own time. His systematic gathering of the data too is by obscured by the lack of modern methods of presentations, such as the table. His scientific style. Aristotle inference growth law from his observations on the animal, the including that brood size during his body mass, whereas gestation period increases. Instead, he practiced a different style of science, systematically gathering data, discovering pattern common to whole group of animal, inferring possible causes explanations from these. This style is common in the modern biological when large amount of data become available in a field. Complex causality. Reader of the Aristotle have found the four causes that has using biological explanation opaque, something not helped by many centuries of the confused. For a biological system, there are some of the straightforward enough. The material causes in the simply what is a system is constructed from. The goal that is called final cause, and the formal causes are what something is for. Its function to a modern biological natural selection. The essential causes is how system moves and develops. To a modern biologist, those are explained by developed biology and cycle and physiology. Biologists continue to other explanation of these kinds. Early modern rejections. The early modern period Aristotle came present at all was obsolete, scholar, scholarist, and wrong, not helped by the association with the medieval theology. In 1632, Galileo represents Aristotelianism, and in the dialogue Spora dialogue concerning the two chief world system. By the same year, William Harvey posted Aristotle wrong by demonstrating the blood circulation. His work, Aristotle did not write anything that resembles a modern unified textbook of the biology. Instead, he wrote a large number of books which taken together given an idea of his approach to the science. Some of the interlog referring to each other while others, such a drawing the anatomies, are lost, but refer to his history of animals, where the reader is instructed to look at the diagram to understand how the animal parts described are arranged. Aristotle's main biological works are five books, sometimes grouped on the animals, namely with the conventional abbreviations shown in the parentheses: history of animal, generation of animals, movement of animals.